Okay, we're going to continue looking at size and resolution. Here I have three different images. You can think of them as three different shots taken from three different cameras. One a low resolution camera, one a medium resolution camera, one a high resolution camera. These three shots were taken at the same time with the same angle, but with three different cameras. You'll notice the first one, the first file, is named Eagle Low Resolution. The second one, Eagle Medium Resolution. Third, Eagle High Resolution. That represents them being taken from a low, medium, and high resolution camera. Now, as I go between these three images, you'll notice that there isn't really any difference that you can see. That's because we're looking at these images at a small enough size that even the low resolution one looks good. But as I get bigger, and by the way, I'm going to hold down the command key and hit the plus key. I'm holding down the command key and tapping the plus key. So as I hold down the command key, tap the plus key, I'm zooming in on this image, and you'll notice that as I start zooming in, this being the low resolution image, I can start seeing pixels. So I'm going to zoom in until you can really clearly see the pixels. So what this is telling you is if you wanted to use that photo taken with the low resolution camera at this size on the screen, like say a website or something like that, it wouldn't look good at all, obviously, right? So what about the medium resolution camera? So on the medium resolution camera, as I begin to zoom in, you'll notice that I'll be able to start seeing some pixels pretty quickly, but not as quickly as with the low resolution camera. So right now you might be able to start picking up some pixels. Certainly as you get a little bit bigger, like here, you can see some pixels. Take a look, for example, around the edge of the eye. You can probably see some of the pixels there. And then take a look over here in the feather area. While you maybe won't see a lot of pixels, you don't see much detail. If you look over here in this sort of hairy area, you can see some pixels, right? Certainly it's not as bad as the low resolution image. So here's the low one, here's the high one. Notice with higher resolution, you can see more detail. Why? Because there's more pixels there, originally taken with the camera. Okay, so let's take a look at the higher resolution one. Notice as I zoom in, it still looks good. It's still looking good. So there we go. We're looking at the high resolution camera, and at this size, I can't see any pixels. So I could actually use this picture at this size if I wanted to. Now notice the difference as I switch between the medium resolution one and the high resolution one. Okay? You thought the medium one was pretty good, but now when you compare it to the high resolution one, you'll notice it really isn't. Again, pay attention to this feather area and look at the detail of the feather. Pay attention to the edge of the eye and pay attention to the hair area here. And actually, any other area you want to. So notice I'm going to switch between the two a few times. There's that one. That's the medium. There's the high, medium, high. Again, you're going to see much more detail in the high resolution images than in the medium or low resolution images. This is why it's important to decide or know what your final size needs to be so that you can make sure that you take the picture with the right camera, having the right resolution. So everything I've said about cameras and resolution is the same with scanners and resolution. Now, one other thing I want to point out, and I'm going to zoom down here. You might be a Photoshop geek, right? And you go, okay, Steve, I get all of that. But I happen to know that Photoshop will add resolution. And you would be right. Photoshop will do that. Photoshop will add resolution. It'll take an image that's a low resolution, and you can tell Photoshop to add pixels. But I want you to think about that for a second, because if you tell Photoshop to add pixels, Photoshop doesn't have the advantage the camera does by looking at the real world, that real shot that you want, and taking the picture and seeing the detail of the live image or the live tree, or in this case, the live eagle. Photoshop doesn't have that opportunity. So all that Photoshop can do is take a look at the pixels around it. In other words, Photoshop is going to take a pixel that it already has, say a color of blue in the sky, and it's going to add pixels based upon what it thinks is a good choice in color. But it doesn't add more detail. All it does is add more pixels, and it actually doesn't do a very good job at that. So maybe I should just show you. So I'm going to take a look at this high resolution image, and I'm going to go to image, image size, and I'm going to notice that the width of that image is 4,968 pixels. As I said, Photoshop will add pixels, so I'm going to go to this low resolution one, go to image, image size, and even though it's only 414 pixels, I'm going to tell Photoshop to add pixels by making sure the resample checkbox is checked. If it's not checked, it won't add pixels. But if it is checked, it will add or subtract pixels based upon what numbers you put in here. Now I want it to be exactly the same number of pixels as the high resolution image. So I'm just going to add that. And you'll notice that it's 4,968. But now I've got a width of 4,968 pixels, 2,940 pixels high, and this is Photoshop going to add pixels. And you can see in that little representation, that thumbnail area over there on the left, it's not really doing that good of a job. So if I hit OK, it's going to add those pixels. Now notice here, it adds the pixels, and technically this image is a higher resolution image. It's exactly the same resolution as the high resolution image. See? It is 4,968 by 2,940. And if I take a look at the high resolution image, it's 4,968 by 2,934. So I'm a little bit off. I'm not quite sure why Photoshop did that. But anyway, there you go. It's pretty much the same resolution. But this one was taken with the camera at the high resolution. This one we had Photoshop add the pixels. Can you see the difference? Of course you can. And this is why we shouldn't have Photoshop add resolution, or what we call upscale an image. So hopefully that all made sense to you. Let me know if it doesn't. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them on the discussion board.